For 3 years, Russia's war machine has rolled along one road, a highway through occupied Ukraine, hauling fuel and troops from Mariupol to Crimea. Now, Ukraine has unveiled a weapon Putin didn't know existed: secret long-range drones built in collaboration with the manufacturer, tearing through Russian convoys on the highway and the dirt tracks alike. Putin's supply line has become a kill zone. Ukraine says it has disrupted one of Russia's most important military logistics corridors in occupied southern Ukraine using previously undisclosed long-range strike drones. According to statements released by Ukraine's 412th Nemesis Brigade of the Unmanned Systems Forces, Ukrainian operators have been targeting Russia's R-280 highway, also referred to by occupation authorities as the Novorossiya route. The Nemesis Brigade said the operation involved the use of newly developed strike drones designed specifically for deep attacks behind Russian lines.
For this, we use secret strike wings that have not previously appeared in the public space. Thanks to close collaboration between the 412th Nemesis Brigade and the manufacturer, we have succeeded in creating a system that is perfectly tailored to these specific tasks.
The highway connects occupied Mariupol, Melitopol, and Crimea, serving as a critical supply corridor for Russian troops operating in southern Ukraine. According to the brigade, the drone systems have already destroyed dozens of Russian military cargo trucks and fuel tankers operating along the corridor.
The effectiveness of the system has been confirmed by dozens of destroyed Russian cargo trucks and fuel tankers.
Ukraine said Russian forces then attempted to reroute convoys through dirt tracks and agricultural roads to avoid drone strikes. But those efforts also failed.
Attempts by the enemy to use field and dirt roads for bypass routes are also proving futile. Ukrainian drones successfully detect and eliminate targets on any terrain.
The strikes form part of Ukraine's growing deep strike drone campaign targeting Russian logistics, fuel depots, railway infrastructure, and air defense systems far behind the front line. Ukrainian officials say the campaign focuses on what military planners call the middle strike zone, targets located roughly 20 to 200 kilometers behind combat lines. The latest operation also follows earlier Ukrainian drone attacks targeting Russian logistics corridors connecting occupied Mariupol with Taganrog and Volnovakha, as Kyiv increasingly uses domestically developed fixed-wing drones capable of operating under heavy electronic warfare conditions. The campaign highlights how drones are increasingly reshaping the battlefield, allowing Ukrainian forces to pressure Russian supply chains deep inside occupied territory without relying solely on conventional missile strikes or air power. Ukraine said it has destroyed a major Russian military command facility in occupied Luhansk using British-supplied Storm Shadow cruise missiles, while Moscow is now threatening fresh retaliatory strikes against Kyiv and what it calls Ukrainian decision-making centers. In a statement released on May 25th, Ukraine's General Staff confirmed that the Ukrainian Air Force carried out the long-range precision strike inside the occupied Luhansk Oblast.
On 25 May 2026, the Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine used Storm Shadow air-launched cruise missiles to successfully destroy an important enemy command and control and communications post in the temporarily occupied territory of Luhansk region.
The strike marks another example of Ukraine using Western-supplied long-range weapons to target Russian military infrastructure deep behind the front lines. Storm Shadow missiles, provided by the United Kingdom, are designed for low-altitude precision attacks against fortified targets and can reportedly strike at ranges of up to 560 kilometers, depending on the variant. Ukraine's military said the operation demonstrated that Russian rear positions are increasingly vulnerable.
This strike underscores the strategic foresight, unity of planning, and deliberate actions that prove no position of the Russian aggressor is safe on Ukrainian soil.
The latest attack comes as Ukraine continues a broader campaign targeting Russian logistics, oil infrastructure, command centers, and military-industrial facilities. Meanwhile, Russia accused Ukraine of carrying out what it described as a terrorist drone strike against civilian infrastructure in occupied Luhansk. In a statement released in Russian, authorities described the attack as another blatant example of what Moscow called the Nazi and terrorist nature of the Kyiv regime, accusing Ukraine of deliberately targeting civilians.
The bloody drone attack carried out overnight on May 22nd by Ukraine's armed forces on a college academic building and dormitory of the Luhansk State Pedagogical University in Starobilsk, LPR, is yet another blatant example of Nazi and terrorist nature of the Kyiv regime, which deliberately targets civilians and does not stop short of the cold-blooded killing of children.
Separately, Ukraine's security service reported a successful drone strike against the Vtorovo oil pumping station in Russia's Vladimir Oblast. At the same time, Russia is escalating its rhetoric toward Kyiv. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov held a telephone conversation with US Secretary of State Marco Rubio amid escalating tensions over the war in Ukraine. The Russian Foreign Ministry said that Lavrov informed Rubio that Moscow would begin strikes targeting what it described as Ukrainian decision-making centers. Following the call, the Russian Foreign Ministry issued an official readout stating that Russia would launch a series of systematic strikes against Ukrainian defense industrial facilities in the capital.
All of this has exhausted patience. In the current circumstances, the armed forces of the Russian Federation are beginning to carry out a series of systematic strikes on facilities of Ukraine's defense and industrial complex in Kyiv, including specific sites involved in the design, production, programming, and preparation for the use of drones used by the Kyiv regime, with the assistance of NATO experts responsible for supplying components, providing intelligence and targeting. Strikes will also target.
The Russian ministry also said Lavrov urged the United States to ensure the evacuation of diplomatic personnel from Kyiv ahead of what Moscow described as future systematic and consistent strikes. The warning came just one day after Russia launched one of its largest missile and drone attacks on Kyiv, including a strike with the new Oreshnik hypersonic missile. Moscow claims the planned escalation is retaliation for the strike in occupied Luhansk. Russia said a dormitory had been hit, while Ukraine maintains the target was a Russian drone command facility. Despite the threats, European diplomats signaled they would remain in Kyiv. Katerina Mathanova, EU ambassador to Ukraine, in an ex-post said,
Russia again threatens diplomats and foreigners, urging us to leave Kyiv. But we are not going anywhere. Russia wants fear, panic, isolation of Ukraine. It will not work. The European Union is not going anywhere. We stay in Kyiv. We stay with Ukraine.
Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha also rejected Moscow's warnings and called for stronger Western support.
We are currently telling our partners that there is no need to give in to this Russian blackmail. We have been through all of this before, and we know when he, Russian President Vladimir Putin, amps up this rhetoric. That is, he escalates, tries to influence this so-called Western mentality, whether it's nuclear threats or joint exercises on the territory of Belarus. This is his way, once again, of mocking all peace efforts.
The latest exchange underscores the growing long-range dimension of the war, as both Ukraine and Russia increasingly target strategic infrastructure and command networks far beyond the front line.